Hello, today the Applesauce challenge. I was challenged to do this by Mr. Baker, linked to his YouTube channel in the description below. Basically what I'm going to be doing is talking about something that I collect, and in what I collect I'm going to be talking about what my most expensive, what my favorite and what my most sentimental pieces of my collection are. I've been playing guitar for around 20 years or so, and in that time I've gathered quite a few bits of gear, so that's what I'm going to be talking about. In addition to the most expensive, most sentimental and favorite piece of gear, I'm also just going to be talking about some of the other gear that I have on top of that. First up, pedals. So I have this pedal board that was made by a friend of mine, Lee. Thank you, Lee. And on it I've got some of the main pedals that I use. Not a lot. I'm a simple guitarist, don't need a lot. So I've got a good old faithful tube screamer. This is the TS7. I've got the Boss NS2 as a noise suppressor, and for every now and then I have a delay pedal. From there we'll move on to the guitars, starting with the most sentimental, and that for me is the nylon string acoustic guitar. That's the most sentimental for me because that's the guitar that I started learning how to play guitar with around 20 years ago. Unfortunately, there's a crack in the neck heel joint, so when this lockdown in South Africa ends, I'm going to have to get that fixed so the neck doesn't just rip right off. From there, we'll talk about probably my favorite guitar, and that's the Squier Strat. It's an Affinity model Strat, made in 2001. I've modified it a fair bit. So on it, it originally came with a white scratch plate. I've put on the tortoiseshell scratch plate, and then in the bridge I put in a Hot Rails pickup, in the neck a little 59. From there we move on to my most expensive guitar. It's this one, the Ibanez RG721. I really like it, bought it probably like 2 years ago or so. Also modified quite a bit. On this one I put in a Graphtec nut just for a little extra tuning stability, and then I've changed the humbuckers. I put in a Seymour Duncan hot rodded humbucker set. That's a JB in the bridge and a Jazz in the neck. Then in addition to that, I've also got my Marshall amp, which I really enjoy, even though it is the much maligned JCM 900 dual reverb. But I quite enjoy the amp, using the right cab or the right impulse responses, and I've been getting some really good sounds out of it. Coming out from the amp, I've got a LaRue Ampworks attenuator for when I want to run the amp through a cab, but I don't want to kill everyone in the vicinity. Otherwise, I've got a LaRue Ampworks dead end, which is a load box, so I can run the Marshall without having a speaker cab connected. And obviously, first rule of a tube amp is never turn it on without a load or a speaker cab connected. Then thereafter, I've got a Moore radar. So I use this as an impulse response loader for when I'm recording my Marshall without a cab. Currently in the Moore radar, I'm using a GGD Zilla Cabs impulse response, and I'm quite enjoying that. Then, on the topic of the lockdown in South Africa, my wife and I are currently sharing babysitting duties while working from home, so I've been amassing a collection of children's toys. And finally, thanks again Mr. Baker for issuing the challenge. I'm going to be passing this on to an old friend of mine, Grant, who has a YouTube channel called Coffee Table Tech. Link in the description below. Thank you for watching, stay safe, like and subscribe, and have a great day. I'm going to pass this on to an old friend of mine, Grant, who has a table